you'll be able to narrow their ranges better.
The GTO equilibrium is to keep your mouth shut. Shall we just give the audience our poker face?
Well, you wear a hat, right?
Oh, I wear a hat. Oh, hang on one second. let me get a. I just happen to have a hat right here.
Oh, nice.
Thanks.
I would fold every time.
I would absolutely. Okay. Shall we show them what we look like when we're in a hand? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so that's lesson 1 today.
We're done now.
That's a good way to not send info on the turn.
Suppose that you're sitting there and you're give me your look, okay? Do your look, and the guy says, "You want to call? Did you flop a set? You suck at playing guitar?
No, I don't. I'm great at guitar." Everybody's got their
we all have our kryptonite, right?
Nice one. Good one.
Gotcha. Boom. Took him right out. Out of his zone. Okay. So we love getting topic requests in the comments.
We do.
And speaking of playing guitar,
yes,
somebody named Music One in Life put a comment that said, "Talk about tells."
You did. And so we're going to
talk about tells, but I'm going to lose the hat.
Usually when people talk about tells, it's in the context of what do my opponents do,
right,
that I can get a read on. You know, like undoing Oreo cookies, for example.
Right.
But that's really just a small part of it.
This video is not going to be the catalog of tells to look for in other people.
Right.
And I know you have some resources that...
Yeah, well, that info is available. Mike Caro, one of our heroes from way back, wrote the definitive book.
And the book's got to be, what, 35 years old now?
Right. The Book of Tells. He's got all these black and white photos.
Yes.
It's just way
great.
Cool. And then Zachary Elwood, who came out with 2 books in the last few years on tells that I think are great. Zach's second book is called Verbal Poker Tells, which is really great because it's only about what people say.
Right.
And he watched a bunch of YouTube footage and did some scientific categorization and came up with some conclusions. If somebody says this type of thing, it usually means they have this. Right. I thought that was great. But the funny thought I had was, and also kind of a happy thought was, here's this 300-page book full of valuable information, completely useless against me because I don't talk.
Right.
So
exactly.
So right there, that's like number 1. You know, anytime you're talking, you're giving up some kind of information. Whether or not they can use it against you or not, who knows? But if you give up no information, they can't use it.
There's a very popular clip on the internet right now of Daniel Negreanu talking about giving away information. And that's actually true. You know, somebody sits down at the table and he's wearing a suit and tie. You have some information. You don't know quite what it means yet.
Right.
But, you know, it is starting to become part of your database.
You're building a profile on that character. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. So I think those are the kinds of things that you are going to do somewhat naturally. All I gotta do is act naturally.
We have evolved to be really, really good at picking up non-verbal tells from other humans. Eye movement, facial movement. Humans have somewhere around 40 muscles in their face.
Okay.
The next most is chimpanzees with 20. Okay, so you ask yourself about any of these things, like how does that evolve? Well, it evolves because the people that were giving and receiving better signals had a better chance of survival.
Right.
You know, if you picture hunting in packs or whatever, and you can wink to somebody behind a tree and say, give some indication, anything like that, right? Our ability to communicate silently is it's almost magical.
Right.
Right. If we're paying attention to what's going on around us, the signs are there. The subtle signs are there. Physical movement, facial movement, all of that.
Right.
So my basic thing that I coach people on with when it comes to tells is you need to play a lot of poker and pay attention and trust your gut. That's at the base level. Is that the information will come in, it will come in accurately if you just let it.
So to that point, if you are looking at your iPad or watching a movie on your phone, all that information that you've been so well trained over tens of thousands of years to pick up is being wasted.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And Tommy and I talk about reciprocality a lot. The idea that if you do something correctly and your opponent does it incorrectly, that becomes money in your pocket. Right? If you both shove with aces, that doesn't help you any because everybody can shove with aces.
Right.
But if you are watching the table and using those 40 muscles on everybody's face to pick up info, and they're watching Terminator on their phone, then
Hasta la vista, baby.
You have 40 facial muscles too. And if people are sitting at the table watching you, well, your muscles are moving too, right?
Yeah.
And either you were happy about the flop or you weren't, or and there's some amount you can control that, and some amount it is just baked into you that you're going to react. And here is an area where you can actually help yourself. Don't add to the information that you give off. And here's a classic situation. Let's say that you bet on the river and the other guy folds. Okay? And let's say you gave off some tell.
Right.
We don't know what it was. It was the way you put your chips out. It was your expression. Whatever it was, you gave off a tell. And somebody spotted the tell.
Right.
But the guy folded.
Yeah.
Your cards go into the muck and he doesn't get anything.
Yeah.
But suppose you turn your cards over and show.
Right.
Now he goes, now I can associate that tell with strength or weakness.
Exactly.
And now you've got a problem.
A great example of that is showing bluffs.
I fold. You had nothing.
And there's lots of reasons to not show a bluff. But let's say that you did give up some kind of tell, and then you show a bluff. The guy can put that together.
Now you've got that information.
Yeah. So obviously showing your hand at the end is not a good idea, but this is one more reason not to. So another area where the tells are just flying all over the place, way more than on the turn and river, is at the end of the hand. When you're in the middle of a pot and you bet the turn and a guy shoves on you, and you are looking at him at that moment to get tells, that's when he's got his guard up.
Right.
That's when everybody, not everybody, but most people who have any ability to just sit still and not move, that's when they're going to do it.
Right.
That's not when the tells are going to come. It's all the other times. And the one time when the tells are just flowing is what I call 6th Street, after the hand. This is when the physical tells and the verbal tells just all mash together to just create this huge information flow. Okay, it can be as simple as a guy just slinging his hand in the muck with frustration.
Yes.
Somehow that's going to help you narrow his range.
Right.
Because that's really what we're talking about here is ranges, narrowing ranges, right? And so what you want to do is be always narrowing people's ranges all the time, especially at the end of the hand.
Right.
Because then you can piece together what happened.
Interestingly enough, if you show your cards or somebody else shows their cards, it becomes really easy to narrow the range.
Right. That's why, up until then there's some doubt.
Right.
You can make any case for anything that somebody might have up to the point where they show the cards.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, that is absolutely the worst play you can make in the tell game is to just reveal your hand.
With all this said, Tommy, I think there are maybe a couple of sort of classic physical tells.
Right, there are.
That we can and should share.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest one, the one that everybody loves, is the sigh.
The big side.
The big side, and it's the nuts. every time.
Right.
And particularly in older people, you know, if you see like an old white guy like me, and they go, okay, I guess I call. You should just fold. I mean, even if it's on the turn, just fold.
Right, the side. You know, when that happens, it's happened so many times. The question that goes right to the top of my mind, because it's a polarized tell range.
Yes,
it really is.
It's a polarized tell range.
Yeah, either the guy truly has nothing, or he has a huge hand. It's never anywhere in between when somebody sighs.
Because sometimes it literally means that. He's like, oh, God, you know, I'm calling bad for the 8th time in the last hour. But I'm going to do it anyway. And sometimes it means that. And sometimes it means just like he's just watched one too many Hollywood videos about poker. It's the stone cold nuts.
Yeah, it's either an act or it isn't.
Yes.
You know,
and it's never compressed range.
Right.
So one thing I do want to say about tells is let's keep them in perspective relative to everything else that happens. Particularly things like physical tells, where, you know, his eye twitched or he twisted an Oreo, whatever it was.
Right.
In general, people's bets or lack thereof is so much more informative.
The bets will indicate the relative strength of each hand.
And you know, when online poker started, people said, oh, well, it won't be real poker because you won't be able to see your opponents. Okay?
Yeah.
But it turned out that the thing that gives out the most information, bet sizes or lack thereof, was still there.
Yeah.
And the good poker players continue to beat the bad poker players, and what do you know? So it was and is real poker. It just doesn't have the physical tell component. So the point is that while physical tells play a part, don't overestimate where they sit in the ranking of important things to pay attention to.
Right. There's a paragraph in Elements of Poker on tells, and it starts with everything everyone does is a tell. And that's kind of what you're saying. It's sort of like we were talking about bankroll. It's like you got to take a big picture view. If you take a big picture view of tells, then that's where what people are wearing is a tell. How often they use their phone can be a tell. You know, one little comment can let you know that they are poker savvy because they watch our videos or whatever. You know? I mean, every little thing. There's so much more than just the physical tells, the classic tells. And to your point, the right way of looking at it is that they're betting. Their decision to bet and how much they bet is just one more tell.
Yes.
And that's all you're doing is compiling a profile on everyone. You just keep gathering the information. And people ask me all this time, it's like, do you have some great memory? Do you need to have a great memory to like remember what a guy did, you know, last week or whatever? It's like, well, sometimes you will remember it, sometimes you won't. But you just keep the information coming in and keep your head clear, and you will always be developing profiles on every player all the time, and you'll be able to narrow their ranges better on each hand because you just have this accumulation of information.
Yes. And what I would like to say is that it is the betting tells that are the biggest and most important ones. Right. And everything else comes behind that.
Yes. Don't think that you're going to win money on your ability to just read people. Right. It's not if you can't read their bets too. That's the first thing to be able to read.
What he just said.
Is that what is known as a poker face?
Okay, Lee, let's talk about mum poker.
I love mum poker because we have maximum and minimum.
Right. Maximum means you just don't talk at all except like to the waitress.
Right. It's like the only talking that you do is like 2 creams, please.
Yeah. And the only time I deploy mum poker is at 5-10 and higher. Generally speaking, okay? 1-3 and 1-2, I'll be a little more involved. Any home game, I'm very much involved. Sure. But if I'm playing, 2-5 and 1-3, I play what I call minimum. And the key thing of minimum and why it applies to this video is that you draw a line between talking about poker and not talking about poker.
You're talking a lot, but but you're not saying anything.
So if you want to talk about movies, fine. Even if you want to talk about, who won the World Series,
right?
You're still talking about poker. That's okay. Right. What you never want to talk about is the current situation, current hands, current bets, current feelings, anything that's going on at the table. That's what you don't talk about. And if you do that, that's minimum.
Right. And by the way, I cannot play maximum because I play poker for fun and it's just not fun for me.
Right.
But I am a stellar minimum player.
So here we are. We're at the end of the hand. And you bet and I folded and I say, oh, you probably had the flush draw. I should have called.
And I say, so how about the Nats winning the World Series? and you said, or did you have the flush? And I go, fellas, I can barely stay in this game if I don't tell you what my cards are. Right? The point is that I'm fun, I'm relaxed, I'm engaged, and I'm not talking about my play, your play, his play.
Right.
Any of it.
Not judging. So it's still possible to give answers so that you're not a total dick without actually giving useful information. That's the key.
That's the idea, is don't be a total dick, but don't give away useful information. That's all there is to it.
You're talking a lot, but you're not saying anything.
All the clever lies that you do about what you had, that is bad too, because there's still information there.
Yes.
First of all, nobody's going to believe you. They're going to, or even if they do, it doesn't matter. If you're making up a story, they can infer of what you wanted them to think that you had.
Right.
It's still information, a lot of information compared to not talking.
Right. The GTO equilibrium is to keep your mouth shut. One of the things that I do, if I'm in a big pot, and somebody's trying to get a rise with me.
Right.
Let me demonstrate, but I need a hat.
Okay.
All right. So I got the hat at the table.
Right.
And I've made a big bet on the turn.
Okay.
Let's say I shoved on the turn.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
And the guy's like, do you want to call? Did you flop a set?
Right.
And so what I do is that I discovered that the 5 of clubs sitting out there is the most fascinating thing I've seen in a week. Right. And so basically what I do is I've dropped my head, so I'm looking down at the table, and I'm absolutely still. And I'm just like staring at the 5 of clubs, and I'm humming some Steppenwolf tune in my head. And he's like, do you want to call? Did you flop a set?
So how do you keep a straight face? I used to be able to do that, but now I just laugh sometimes. And so what I do is, if I feel myself uncontrollably grinning, I'll just go like this.
I've seen him do this, and it's really kind of funny because the thing is that it really doesn't give off any information about the hand. It's like, okay, now I've gotten bored with this silly game we're playing,
right?
And I'm just kind of going to go into my happy place and just become.
It's sort of like putting the hood over your head,
right? Just
temporarily.
Yeah, it's kind of the old Phil Lock maneuver,
right?
Yeah, and the thing is that it's fine in my world for somebody to say, did you flop a set or did you hit the flush or whatever?
Sure, that's all fair. Yeah.
But occasionally some people will cross the line and they'll say, are you just going to be a complete asshole and not reply to me? Right?
Right.
And again, my attitude is, I'm staring at the 5 of clubs and humming Steppenwolf in my head. So it's like, I'm not engaging.
So the guy says, you really suck at dobro.
He's really pushing my buttons, but even then, I'm just like, nope, I'm not engaged. I'm not engaged. During the hand, I'm not engaging.
Right.
After the hand,
so after the hand, the guy asks you those questions. You're still, you either give like a friendly non-reply, or no, or total silence.
I say, I'd say something like, "Man, have you listened to Magic Carpet Ride recently?" I'm just not. I'm not giving anything after that, and particularly if they are trying to get a rise out of me by being rude or being a dick, I'm just like I'm not playing.
Especially now. Pay attention to everybody all the time, and you will constantly be building your profiles on everyone all the time. And when you're in a pot with them, you will either consciously or unconsciously be able to narrow their ranges better, and that's really all we want to do with tells is get a better read on our opponents.
And don't be giving away tells yourself. And the easiest way not to be giving away tells is, when it matters, be quiet and be still. That was a great topic.
It was.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And again, thanks to Music One and Life for suggesting it in the comments. And here's your chance to give your suggestion for a topic that you'd like us to cover.
And while you're down there, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button and the subscribe button.
Thanks a lot.